Good afternoon. It's 3:30, Tuesday, January 27th. You have joined us for a webinar specific to individual applicants, how you apply for grants from NMDA's Healthy Soil Program. I'm Katie Creighton. Very soon you'll meet Dean Bruce. Together we are the co-leads of NMDA's Healthy Soil Program, and we welcome you to today's webinar. And to help you feel officially welcome, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat, noting where in New Mexico you are that you manage land, and whether you're managing that land for crop production, maybe grazing, maybe another purpose, wildlife, something along those lines. We invite you to offer that information in the chat so we get a sense of who's in the room. A bit of housekeeping that during the presentation today, as Dean and I are sharing information with you, we ask that you stay on mute and that you keep your video off. That will help us preserve some of the bandwidth, especially for people in New Mexico who are in low service type areas with their internet. So during that time, just use your chat function down below at the bottom of the screen and enter your questions there. Now, if you have one of those questions that just translates best in real time, that's okay too. At the end of the presentation, we'll invite you to come off mute and ask your question out loud, and we'll have a good exchange of information that way. We are recording today, as you probably have noticed. So that recording plus these slides will be available on our individual applicant webpage soon, and more than likely by the end of this week. Okay, just a brief agenda. We'll go through the who, what, when, where, and how of our program, starting with who can apply, where and when projects can happen, what projects are eligible, importantly, and the reason we're all gathered this afternoon is to share more about how and where to actually make application for our grants. A lot of information on this slide, but focus with me on the right-hand side of the screen. This webinar this afternoon is particular to individual applicants. When you hear us say that term, who we are referring to is non-governmental parties. So you might be here as an individual. You might be here on behalf of your business. You might be here on behalf of a nonprofit that you work for. All of those parties, non-governmental. So we loop those parties together and call them individual applicants. Follow along with me here to see that our application is underway and it closes March 20th at 12 p.m. That is noon, and that is a firm deadline. So you'll note across our application materials, we will not accept late applications, nor incomplete applications, nor paper applications. You'll see that again throughout today's presentation as well. Note that there is a separate deadline built within our structure. That comes on February 20th, and by that date certain, you must have completed conservation planning with USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. You'll hear more about that today as well. Maximum awards are just under $25,000, but be advised that that figure is inclusive of mileage that your project sponsor will bill us for to come out to your project site and check on things. It's also inclusive of a 15% administrative fee that NMDA also pays directly to your project sponsor. They're going to support you throughout the grant term if you win a grant in collecting your receipts, submitting for reimbursement, invoicing, helping you with your quarterly progress reports, those sorts of things. We recognize that New Mexico's farmers, ranchers, other land managers also wear other hats. So we wanted to include for you all that these grants are also available to eligible entities. In fact, they're our primary market for our grants. So eligible entities are local governmental entities with proven land management capacity to support healthy soil. You'll see that eligible entities include tribal governments, acequias, land grants, soil and water conservation districts, Cooperative Extension Service, and any other party that raises its hand and says, hey, we meet the definition of an eligible entity. So we wanted to flag that for you all in case you're in touch with those parties. We really encourage you to encourage them to also make application for our program. Their grants, because they serve more people and service bigger swaths of land, their grants go up to $100,000. But again, before we switch slides, who we are speaking to today is individual applicants. Those are non-governmental parties here. So when can NMDA's Healthy Soil Program grants occur? When can they happen? We are very pleased at this new calendar. So grants can last up to almost 15 months. You get full access to the agricultural calendar and then some. So here we are, January. We will get everything sorted out and successful projects selected so that they can start middle of July of this year. Those projects will run clear through the rest of 2026 and continue through 2027 up until the end of September. So again, what we're looking at in total is almost 15 months worth of on-the-ground project. And this is where I'll turn it over to Dean. Dean?
Thank you, Katie. So, Katie talked about the time frame that these grants are going to run. Now we're going to talk about where can they happen. Basically, anywhere in New Mexico. These healthy soil program projects can occur on any type of operation: cropland, rangeland, irrigated pasture, forest land, orchards, vineyards, gardens. These can be market gardens, subsistence gardens, community gardens, things like that. But there must be an existing relationship to the land. Either you have to own it, you lease it, or you manage it on another's behalf. If you do not own the land, you must have landowner permission to implement a soil health project on the land or on any land that you do not own. The way these projects are arranged out, we do not have a minimum or a maximum amount of land that can be enrolled. These projects can be measured in acres or square feet. So the important thing is they must be in New Mexico and you must have a relationship to the land. Next slide, please. Okay, so beyond that, we have now the backbone of the Healthy Soil Program. The Healthy Soil Program grants must revolve around at least one of the five soil health principles. Listed here are the five soil health principles that are named in the program. Number one, keeping soil covered. Number two, minimizing disturbance on cropland, minimizing external inputs. Number three, maximizing biodiversity. Number four, maintaining a living root. And number five, integrating animals into land management. This can include grazing animals, birds, beneficial insects, or keystone species such as earthworms. So, how do you, as an individual applicant, decide which soil health principles should be at the heart of your on the ground project? First and foremost, by reviewing your NRCS conservation planning documents. This is going to be central to your project. We'll talk a little bit more about NRCS conservation planning later. So once you have those planning documents in hand, your soil health related resource concerns that were identified during conservation planning will help you determine which soil health principle is best for the land you manage. It could likely be more than one soil health principle, but it has to be at least one to be eligible for the grant program. Next slide, please. Okay, so just want to give you a sampling of the project activities that can occur on cropland. This can include planting a diverse cover crop mix, using a no-till drill to plant that. We also have applicants that have in the past applied manure or compost to their cropland. A popular project is to establish pollinator habitat. These are by no way a full list of everything that could be done to improve soil health, but we want to just kind of get those wheels turning as you're thinking about your project. Tying that together with those soil health principles to understand what would best address the soil health issues that may exist on the land that you own or manage. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide includes just some sample activities on rangeland. One that's been popular as of late is bale grazing, upper left-hand corner of your screen. We utilize bale grazing to restore cover on bare ground, treat those critical areas that really need some help, build the organic matter, add some nutrients to the soil, utilizing grazing animals. As a side note, this particular practice can be utilized on cropland as well if you need to incorporate some organic matter into your cropland. We also have on the bottom left-hand corner helping producers implement an intensive rotational grazing system to help lengthen the rest recovery periods on grazing lands. One that's been popular and is gaining momentum is virtual fencing. The program can assist you in utilizing virtual fencing to help your grazing distribution on rangelands. Again, a side note that could be utilized on cropland as well if you're incorporating animals into your land management on cropland to help utilize grazing animals on cropland. But then, bottom right hand corner, you see subsoiling. This has been utilized to break up compaction layers, increase water infiltration on rangelands. And so this has been a practice that has been utilized in parts of the state to help break up those compaction layers and improve your nutrient cycling and your grass production. So next slide, please. Okay, so as we move into the application phase, this is going to be your landing page, the Healthy Soil Program website, specifically for individual applicants. That's who this webinar is targeting today. You'll notice that there are 6 steps that you as individual applicants must take in order to complete your application and get a fully developed application submitted to the program. We're going to visit about these later and kind of go in depth and show you the landing page for the Healthy Soil Program for individual applicants. But if it looks like this, you're likely in the right spot. So next slide, please. And I believe it's at this point I'm going to turn it back over to Katie, and then we're going to jump to the website here in just a second.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. So if you've got a smartphone and it's sitting there right close to you, grab it, take a little scan of this QR code, and you'll land on the page that we're about to take a peek at. So let me toggle between screens here and get on that same page with you. Okay, let me point out a few things before we get into the nitty-gritty of our 6-step application process for individual applicants. Make sure this is what you see at the top of your screen. If you land on a page that says eligible entities, you're on the wrong page. So again, today we're talking to those non-governmental parties, our farmers, our ranchers, our other land managers. This is where you belong. I want to point out to you first, this frequently asked questions document. That's something we build on every year of this program. So chances are, if you have a question about our program, chances are we've heard that question before, and chances are we've got an answer for it in our FAQ. So strongly encourage you to check out that document as you encounter questions during our process. And where we come up short, where you don't find an answer to your particular question, do as we suggest down here, which is send us a quick email, put something in writing to us, and we'll send you back an answer in writing, something that you can hang your hat on. I also want to point out that very soon, after today's webinar, you'll see posted here a recording of today's webinar, as well as the slides that you're seeing on your screen. Okay, and last but not least, if you're not already subscribed for weekly updates from the program, those include application tips, deadline reminders, soil health events. Just go ahead and pop onto the homepage for the Healthy Soil Program. You'll see a place to get subscribed for those weekly emails. Okay, Dean and I are going to bust these up. So I'll take the first 3 steps of our online application process, and Dean will close us out with the remaining 3 steps. So step 1, hopefully you've already done this. If not, it's not too late. But step 1 is to contact the partners for your project. And the thing you're going to tell them is, hey, I'm going to apply for NMDA's Healthy Soil Program grants. I need your support. I need your backing. So what you'll do first is reach out to USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. You'll hear us say NRCS quite a bit, and that's who we're pointing to. So we'll learn more about why you contact NRCS in step 2. The second party you need to contact is your intended project sponsor. For most people, that's going to be your local soil and water conservation district. If you're a tribal member, you have access to one of 2 parties. You can choose. Do you work with your tribal government for project sponsorship, or do you go to your local soil and water conservation district? But again, this is the party that will walk with you as you go throughout the grant if your project is selected for funding. This is the party that will help you collect receipts and submit for reimbursement of those approved expenses. They'll help submit quarterly reports with you as the chief writer, but working hand in hand with you throughout the duration of the grant. So that is step 1, contacting the partners for your project. Step 2 takes us a little more in depth to the conservation planning requirement. Notice the separate deadline. Yes, we have said our online application is due March the 20th, but 1 month prior is when you have to complete step two. And that is to learn more about your soil. After all, step two is the absolute foundation on which your entire project rests. So, of this step two, you're going to visit Web Soil Survey, which is a really cool online tool that will produce for you a soil map, and that's necessary for cropland projects. For rangeland projects, it's also the place where you can produce an ecological site description. Either one is free. And really, what you're driving to do here is to get a picture of your project site and to better understand the soils that have been identified there. That gives us a good understanding of what will and what might not work there in terms of a soil health project. So that's the first step. Go to Web Soil Survey, get that important map produced. And if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, no worries. Just click this open and you'll see a tutorial that Dean put together as the technical co-lead of our program. So now that you've got that map in hand, you know a little more about your soils. This is when you're going to connect with NRCS for your conservation planning. Again, notice the deadline of February 20th. It's got to be completed by that date. So make sure that you're reaching out to NRCS soon if you haven't already done so. You produce one of two documents. You can either ask NRCS for a full conservation plan, it's often a lengthier document, or you can grab one of our conservation planning templates from below and make it a more streamlined process. And you'll see here that we've got a template specific to rangeland, one specific to cropland. So depending on what type of land you're working on, you'll snag one of those two templates. A final note, if you intend to do bale grazing, as Dean just showed us in those slides, you also need to complete a bale grazing template. The reason for that extra template, it gives NMDA the assurance that what you're doing on your land is not just a livestock feeding program, that you have soil health in the crosshairs of your project. So that's the necessity of this extra template. A lot of information here on step two. Again, it's critical that you understand it and pursue it very soon if you've not already done so, just given this deadline and given its overall importance in our application process. Looking ahead to step three, now you're getting to work. You're developing your project idea using those conservation planning documents that you got from step two. Dean put together a really solid document called our Project Development Guidance Document. It does exactly what it says it does. It guides you in developing your project. So we encourage you to pop in there and make the connections between the resource concerns on your project site with the soil health principles and ultimately the conservation practices you're going to put on the ground. So we encourage you to check out that document. But we also encourage you to ask yourself some questions that can really help you think through the different aspects of your project. Again, starting with what are those resource concerns on your project site? Those were the things that NRCS will help you identify during conservation planning. From there, you can identify the soil health principles that will best address those resource concerns. Then we get to the practices, what actually put those soil health principles into motion. And then this gets into the nitty-gritty of the grant. So ask yourself, of those practices you've identified, maybe it's no-till drilling a cover crop, maybe it's bale grazing, as Dean mentioned. Maybe it's applying compost. Ask yourself which of those practices that you want to do can you actually get done between mid-July of this year and late September of 2027. That's the grant term. So you want to be really realistic with yourself. What is something that's within your capacity to handle during that time frame? From there, your next step is to identify the goods and services that you will ask us for funding to buy. So this is the nitty-gritty, like I said, of your grant. What is it that you're going to do? What goods and services do you need in order to get those things done? Then you're going to go further and say, well, which companies will I actually source those goods and services from? Who are you going to buy your cover crop seed from? Where might you rent a no-till drill from? Those are things to identify before you submit your application. And we need actual costs. We do not run on estimates. We need actual costs that you'll build into a timeline and budget template. We'll look at that template in just a moment. But again, you're looking for actual costs that you'll then commit to paper. So that is step 3, developing your project idea based on what you learned during conservation planning. And I'm going to turn it over to Dean to walk us through the remaining steps.
Thank you, Katie. So as we look at step 4, is when you're actually going to begin working on your online application. But prior to doing that, we do encourage you to spend considerable time on the timeline budget template. Okay. Um, we're gonna go into that one just a little bit more here in a second, but just note that this is an Excel spreadsheet. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen here in a minute after we kind of look at the remaining steps, but you will download it here. It'll show up on your computer as a download. We ask that from that point you do save it to your personal computer with a unique name, or at least your name included in the title of the document, so that we can ensure if something happens, we know where it goes. But the online application portal, if Katie will kind of hover over that, that's we're going to go there here in just a minute. This is actually where you will go to enter your information in the application itself. Okay. Timeline and budget template is something that you are going to then complete on your own and upload to the application prior to submitting. Right now, we're going to go to the next steps just so you get an overview of the application process, and then we're going to come and we're going to spend a bit of time on the timeline and budget template. So, step 5, as Katie mentioned earlier. When you contact your project partners, one of them is going to be either your soil and water conservation district or your tribal nation, your tribal government. It's at this point in the application process that you will actually secure project sponsorship from either your SWCD or your tribal nation, tribal government. What that amounts to, if Katie will scroll down just a little bit more, we do have a document that you will present to either your SWCD or your tribal government. It's the FY27 Letter of Support Template. And what this document does is it shows us at NMDA that your project sponsor has reviewed your project. They concur with your project. They've looked at the expenses and things like that. But it's at this point in the application phase, step 5, that you're actually going to present that to them, have them sign it, and then that again will be uploaded as part of your application. Reminder, Katie's hovering over that. You must upload the entire document, pages 1 and 2. We need the entire document to show that the project sponsor has reviewed your entire application, the budget, whatever they would like to look at, and that you're going to upload the entire document. That's very critical. Don't overlook that step. We need the entire document uploaded as part of your application packet. So now we're going to move quickly to step 6 of the application process. And this is when you're actually going to finalize your application online and submit it by 12 p.m., 12 noon Mountain Time on Friday, March 20th. Mark that down on your calendar, set you a reminder, because late or incomplete applications, paper applications, will not be accepted. So, but right there again is just the web address that takes you directly to the application portal. For those individuals on the call today that have participated prior, you should have a login already created. But for those that are new, you will have to create a login. It's free, and then it gives you access to the application portal where you can complete your application and again have that submitted by 12 noon on Friday, March 20th. Again, later incomplete applications will not be accepted. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and ask Katie to stop sharing, and we're going to kind of dive into that timeline and budget template. So bear with me just a second while I get this shared. Okay, so the timeline and budget template, it is an Excel spreadsheet. It must be submitted back to us in Excel. No other formats of the template will be accepted. So you must maintain this as an Excel spreadsheet. It does have formulas in it that tabulates all the costs and everything else. So it must be submitted back to us in Excel. But before we get to all the neat stuff, all the fun stuff, I am going to point you down here to the bottom left-hand side of the screen. This little red tab down here is the directions, and um, it will take just a second, hopefully, to get over there. There we go. So, before you start with the fun stuff, we do ask that you read the directions for this because it'll save both you and us a lot of time if you kind of understand the directions to the process. So, again, I mentioned item number one there: work and save and submit this template exclusively in Excel format. I mentioned the mathematical formulas that are built into the spreadsheet. They must maintain their integrity, and so you have to submit it back to us in Excel for it to be a viable application. Number two, Katie mentioned this earlier. We're going to mention it again. Review the FAQ. The FAQs have a ton of information showing you as an individual applicant. There's some things that are off limits that are outside the scope of the Healthy Soil Program. And so we do encourage you to review that FAQ. Again, saves you time, saves us time, and helps you put together a quality application. That's what we're after anyways, a quality application that's going to help you improve your soil health that stays within the guardrails of the Healthy Soil Program. Number three, we're going to enter some information. I'll show you that. Several of the cells require you to add descriptions of project activities or descriptions of budget items. We ask you to be brief but specific. And so I know that's sometimes it's a fine line to draw, but we do ask you to be brief but specific. Item number four, complete the template chronologically based on when the activities will actually occur. So you're going to see here in just a second that you have the option to select first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. And so we ask you to complete the template chronologically. If you are requesting grant funds, item number 5 there in your screen, to plant cover crops, we do ask you to complete the blue table on the right-hand side of the main budget template. I'll show you that in just a second. It's fairly self-explanatory, but we do ask you if you're planting cover crops and or native grass species, we ask you to put that information in that blue table. And then again, upload the completed version of this document in Excel format. So we're going to swap over to the fun stuff. We ask you to read every portion of this because it's critical that you understand how this document's put together. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see this is the timeline. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to give you an example. Each of these boxes right here, you can click on and select the quarter in which those activities are going to occur. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Okay? And so when you're thinking about your project activities, when you visited with NRCS, in your conservation plan, they're probably going to recommend times of year to complete some of these practices. And so that's when you're actually going to complete those. And so as you start this timeline and budget template, bear in mind when you're going to complete those activities, and then select the time accordingly on this little drop-down menu. The next column here is your project activities. Okay, and this is where you're actually going to list what you're going to do, We ask you to include, like is mentioned here, use verbs, you know, drill a five-way, drill seed a five-way cover crop mix in field A. Okay, so we want to know what you're going to do in this column right here. And then real quickly, we're going to cover the different categories of purchases that you can include in your budget. The first one are what we call non-durable goods. These are tangible items, but they're short-lived, such as cover crop seed, compost, manure, things of that nature, mulch, things that are going to be purchased and consumed basically immediately. And so those non-durable goods will be included in this kind of light green looking color section of the template. As we move over here, this salmon colored or this kind of peach colored section of the template, these are the durable goods purchases. And again, if you're having a bit of a time understanding these, go to our FAQ. They're described in detail in the FAQ. But durable goods are those tangible, long-lived items such as PVC pipe, T-post, wire. Maybe if you're applying for virtual fencing collars, those would fit under the durable goods section. Anything that is not going to be consumed and is tangible would be considered a durable good. And then our last category are the services. And this is where you would have specialized work performed by a business. This could include soil testing with a soil test laboratory. It could also include, hiring a contractor to no-till drill a cover crop, things of that nature. These are specialized work that is performed by a business. So I'm going to give you some examples. Oh, while I'm over here, let's scroll over here. This blue table, if you are implementing a cover crop or maybe a native grass planting, you will need to fill this out for us. This includes the time of year that you're going to actually do the seeding, so you'll enter that information in. The species name. And so what you will do here, I've given you an example right here of a cover crop species mix that you could enter in here. The next column over is where you're going to put it, the field or pasture name. Then next over that is the NRCS recommended seeding rate. So as you work with your conservation planner, they're going to likely provide you with a seeding rate for your cover crops, and this is where you would enter that information in. You'll notice from my example right here, excuse me, I have 65 pounds per acre, and that was what was recommended by the NRCS conservation planner in our scenario here. Once you've entered that information and the number of acres, right here, 4 acres, it calculates automatically how much seed you're going to need to purchase for that practice to be completed. So any seedings that you're going to be completing, whether it be a cover crop, fall planted, spring planted, summer planted cover crop, we do ask you to fill this out. I will make note, if it is a commonly available blend from a known seed supplier, you can simply put that blend in here. If we can find it easily on the internet, and that blend does not change from producer to producer, we will allow you to just simply put the name of the blend and the supplier if we can easily access that information on the internet. If it's a custom blend, similar to what I put right here, we do ask you to list out the entire mix. So moving over, in the past, we've had we're trying to help you eliminate issues that we've come across in the past. And so basically, I'm going to go through 2 scenarios on several examples here of basically what not to do and what to do. Okay, so first scenario here, we're going to actually cover these cells right here. So let's assume that you're going to plant a cover crop This is going to be, say, a late fall or late summer, early fall cover crop in the first quarter. When you fill out this cell right here, all you put was cover crop. Um, compare that to the cell below it where it says purchase and no-till drill seed a multi-species cover crop on field one. It's very descriptive. It helps both us at NMDA as well as the technical review committee that will be reviewing these applications understand exactly what you're going to be completing for this particular line item of the budget. Next column here is where you're going to actually name what you're purchasing. This just says seed mix from Curtis and Curtis. Nothing else. Compare that to the cell below it, where it says Curtis and Curtis seed, fall deer, food plot mix, taxes and shipping included per NRCS recommendations. No doubt about what you're doing right there. This is a common mix that they have, and I know this is a food plot mix, but if you look at the species, I just selected that because it had quite a few species so that you could see an example in the blue chart that I just showed you. Let me scroll up just a tad. Me. So in this next column, you're going to indicate the number of units that you're going to purchase. The one scenario here, you said four, and then you just put bags. We don't know if those are 5-pound bags, 10-pound bags, 50-pound bags. And so that is not a very accurate representation of the seed that you need to purchase. Compare that to we're going to purchase 260 pounds at $15.25 a pound for a grand total of $3,965. So you can see here in these two scenarios, there's one that provides a great amount of detail, still very short but specific in what's occurring, and the other one has limited detail. We definitely ask you to follow this pattern right here that I'm highlighting because it indicates exactly the number of pounds you're purchasing, the type of seed you're purchasing, as well as over here on this cell right here where you're going to actually be planting that mix. So in conjunction with your cover crop, we're going to say that you're going to need to hire somebody to plant that cover crop. So we have here, again, a description of the service. It just says cover crop seeding, not very specific. It also lists the name of the business as a neighbor with a drill. Okay. In order for us to reimburse, it must be a business. This could be an LLC, it could be an incorporation, but it must be a business. So compare that to this section that I have highlighted. We have seed and multi-species cover crop with no-till drill. We have Land Tech Custom Farming LLC. They're going to do 4 acres, $15 an acre. And again, that self-calculates. You don't actually have to calculate that $60 fee right there. The spreadsheet will do it itself. And so again, just these two examples right here. There's one way not to do it. Very lacking in detail. You don't have a business named. And then here's the way it should be completed. You have enough detail to know what we're doing. We have a business selected. We have the number of acres, and we have the dollars per acre in the budget. So let's go down to another example. And now we're going to look at some durable goods. And again, a reminder, these durable goods, these are long-lived items that are going to last more than a year. Typically, they'll serve you for a good deal of time. Now, for those of you that have participated in the program before, I'm actually going to give you a quiz here because in our FAQ, we specify that durable goods that are over $5,000 are not allowable for the program. And actually, my quiz is coming down here. Sorry, I skipped it just a little bit. So those of you that have been involved in the program before, you know that any durable good purchase is capped at $4,999.99. Because of that, I'm actually going to type something in here. So say we're going to request a PTO shredder for our tractor to terminate our cover crop mix. That PTO shredder is going to cost us $5,200. And can anybody tell me what occurred right here that is going to basically disqualify this particular element of your application? You can put it in the chat. You get a gold star for the day. And I think I've already told you the answer, but you have to be paying attention. So we'll give a few people a beat to do that. And like I said, I've already kind of spilled the beans about the answer to this, but the request here will be removed from your budget because it is a durable good and it exceeds the $4,999.99 that's allowable for durable goods purchases. So, uh, just a heads up, if you are requesting a durable good, it must be $4,999 or less in total value, or it will be removed from your application. So, just a heads up on that. Let's look at a few more examples right here of some commonly applied for items and ways that you can make sure that we don't have to remove those items from your budget or look at them in a different way. So this first one right here, it just says purchase and apply compost to field 3. It just lists compost, which is perfectly fine, but it lists one dump trailer load. Okay, so is it a 2-ton dump trailer? Is it a 10-ton dump trailer? We don't know. And so that doesn't allow us and the technical review committee to determine exactly what you are putting out on your land. Compare that to this one. We have over here purchase and apply compost to field 3, 1 ton per acre. We have compost listed. We have a half a ton that we're going to purchase at $150 a ton, comes out to $75. And so the total application rate is actually going to be a half a ton because this field 3 is smaller. But hopefully this just gives you an idea of how to go about filling out this budget in a detailed manner, so that we as NMDA as well as the technical review committee can fully understand what you're asking for. I'm not going to go through every one of these examples here, but if there are specific questions, we can answer them at the latter part of the webinar today. But I hope this guides you in a way so that you understand the best way to fill out your budget that gives us at NMDA as well as the technical review committee a really good idea of what you're requesting, when you're requesting it, how much you're requesting, and how it's going to be installed. You'll notice at the bottom of here, we keep a running tally of the different costs that are associated with this scenario I developed. For each category, we've got the non-durable goods, the durable goods, and the services. And this is where you're actually going to see your different project totals. So the total requested funds for this scenario, $19,480. The administrative fee for your project sponsor is $2,922. And the next thing that you're going to want to fill in is the mileage, the one-way round trip from the project site to the office of your project sponsor. So this allows your project sponsor to visit the site and help you in any way that they can to best implement your project and give you assistance and guidance as needed. So we do ask that you include mileage for your project sponsor as part of your total overall application. And then the total award amount, of course, is here. And for individual applicants, again, that is capped at $24,999.99. So it's at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and then Katie is going to take back over, and we're going to take a look at the online application. And so if you do have questions about the budget, please plug them into the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, thanks for that background on the timeline and budget template, Dean, since that is so critical to these projects. In fact, the projects that are selected for funding, remember this is a competitive process, the projects that are selected for funding, that timeline and budget template is central to the contract that we will sign with you. So that's why we're encouraging you to put a lot of thought and the time that you have available into that particular document. It is central to your project. Thus, it is central to the legal documents that we'll all sign together and bind us together for the grant term. Okay, I'm going to pop back onto the landing page for individual applicants. And I apologize, there were people on the call who didn't have a smartphone handy, but now you should have the link to join us on this page if you'd like to do so in real time. So I could click a number of places to land at the online application. I could go to step 4 and click through here. And so while my computer takes a little bit of time to do that, I've already stepped ahead to what that page is going to, what that link will land you on once you give it a click. So let me type in the account I set up earlier, and we'll actually walk through the online application as Dean mentioned. And because my bandwidth is so slow, I'm actually going to stop the thinking on that page and return to this one. Okay. And we'll just go ahead and pretend I've already logged in. So where that will land you and what you ought to be looking for is this link right here. The FY27 Healthy Soil Program Grants for Individual Applicants. We are in the application, folks. It's pretty straightforward. And we ask you some straightforward questions to get things started. We ask you about the nature of yourself as an applicant. This question I want to point your attention to. We ask for the legal name of the party that will purchase approved budget items and carry out approved project activities. The reason we need that is because in years past, people have submitted with maybe a farm name that they use colloquially, a farm name or a ranch name that they use in conversation among themselves. We need a legal name here because we are going to sign a contract together. And ultimately, what will happen is your project sponsor will issue you a 1099. That's a form from the IRS because this grant award is considered taxable income. So we want to make you aware of that right up front, that what we'll need here is the legal name, again, of the party that we'll be signing a contract with if you get a grant. And also, so your project sponsor knows who is the legal party that they should be issuing a 1099. So I wanted to call your attention to that question right quick. It's possible you worked with another person to complete this application. No problem there, so long as you stay in the driver's seat. We will sign the contract with the boots on the ground, not the person who completed this application. So since you will be legally responsible for submitting the project in the way you, actually completing the project in the way you submit it here, it's important that you understand that you need to be in the driver's seat on this application. I'll scroll through here and pause on some of the more important questions. This one here, have you ever applied for a grant before? We have implemented a new policy with our program that you can be awarded. You can apply as many times as you want, but you will be awarded only 3 grants throughout the course of this program's lifetime. The reason for that is we want to give you a nudge toward implementing a soil health system, but we won't fund your place in perpetuity. We've got to make room for other people and invite new people into the fold. So you'll see that question, and that's the background there. We mentioned that you need to have an existing relationship to the land. We invite you here, this is optional, but if you happen to identify with this statement that we pulled directly from the Healthy Soil Act, young producers, veterans, small farms, you might wish to declare to us how it is that you relate to this statement. Again, going through some simple questions about project location, whether you're on tribal lands, you have a physical address or coordinates. We ask you about the amount of land involved in the project. And as Dean mentioned earlier, we welcome projects in acres, we welcome projects in square feet. But for the purpose of us comparing applications, we need acres for the rest of your application. So you'll see a table down below that helps you make that conversion. A little bit more information about your project site. We need some images. So these can be photos, maybe you pull something from Google Maps. It might be a sketch that you simply note for us where the project will happen, what the boundaries are, anything that would help give a good, clear mental picture to reviewers as to what you intend to do with your project. We ask you about the land management. How has the land that you are proposing a project for, how has it been managed in the recent past and in the not so recent past? We mentioned to you as part of step 2 of your 6-step application process, before you connect with your NRCS conservation planner, produce a soil map or an ecological site description map and have that information handy so that you know more about the soils on your place. That's something you'll upload so we also can learn what's possible or not as possible on your piece of land. We've really focused on conservation planning. This is the foundation of your entire project. So this is where you will upload those conservation planning documents. You don't need to upload them by February 20th. I want to make that extra clear. So let me say it again. You do not need to send us your conservation planning documents by February 20th. Rather, what February 20th is the deadline to complete conservation planning. So again, don't pop in here and think you need to upload it. Just save it to your computer, study it, review that document, pull project ideas from it, ask questions about it. That's why we build in that February 20th deadline. We want you to really spend some good time reflecting on what NRCS conservation planning helped you better understand about your land. Now we get into some of the project sponsor type questions, whether it was an SWCD or your tribal government. And we want to know who we should be in contact with there. And this is where you'll upload that letter of support template. As Dean noted, it's printed on the template that you need to upload both pages. That way we see at NMDA how you presented your project to your project sponsor. And importantly, we also get the page where they affirm, yes, I will be supportive of this project during the entire grant term. All right, now we're into the nitty-gritty of your project. So, of course, we need a title, a brief summary that touches on all of these points. And now you're looking back on some of the things you learned during conservation planning, your resource concerns, which soil health principle you're going to apply. Remember, it needs to be at least one. It can be all 5 if you like, but at least one. Once you know your principles, what are the actual practices that leads you toward? Click all that apply there. Again, that table for converting from square feet to acreage if need be. Again, if you are going to request funds for bale grazing, you will be prompted to upload the bale grazing template. Again, that is so we have assurance at NMDA that how you will use that hay is not just to feed out livestock, but rather to restore your soil. That is the be-all, end-all of our program. I want to stop on our project narrative for just a moment. Your project narrative and your timeline and budget, they should be telling the same story. We should be able to connect them to one another, looking over your timeline and budget template, seeing the things that you're going to do. Those are the things that ought to show up in your project narrative. So where there's a tremendous amount of daylight between project narratives and timeline budget templates, those projects are not selected for funding. You want to make sure that your narrative and your budget are corresponding with one another. Dean showed you the requirement of pre-project lab-based soil testing. So you'll just simply show us here what it is you intend to do there and that you've given it some thought. You'll tell us about your other evaluation techniques. How are you measuring success for this project? And at what point do you check in on the project and actually use those evaluation techniques? What are the realistic project outcomes of implementing your particular project? Describe those for us here. And again, we've spent a good amount of time on the timeline and budget template today. It's because it's worth a full 40% of your points. And the reason we value it so tremendously is because it tells the story of your project. It tells us when things are happening, what is happening, and what goods and services are required to implement those practices. So again, this is a document you don't want to take lightly. Spend some time with it. Have a friend review it if you're not sure that your messages are being conveyed accurately. So again, encouraging some time and some thought toward this timeline budget template. Because we have a competitive grant program, we invite you to tell us, hey, NMDA, if your funding is limited, start trimming on my project here. Some grant programs don't do that. They go in and start whacking the line items that can't be funded. That also happens with us. The ineligible items will be removed from your budget, but we also invite you to tell us, hey, NMDA, if you can't fund my project fully, cut these things out. So we're actually inviting your participation in that process. If you have other supporting documents, maybe a letter from a project supporter, this would be the place to upload that. Importantly, we want to notify you that because these are taxpayer dollars we're awarding in the form of grants, the materials that you send back to us, maybe they're photos of your project successes, maybe they're videos, maybe they're soil test results. Those are all matters of public record, and we use those media items, those photos, those videos on our website or just in promotion of soil health in general. So we want to give you that heads up that we will use materials like that, and you just need to acknowledge that use of material there in that box. If you wish to have your information shared with others that promote the Healthy Soil Program and soil health, you can click yes for that. And whenever we're approached by an outfit that wants to connect with grantees, then we would share your name and contact information with them. This is basic stuff that we ask you to just affirm before you press submit on your application. So making you aware of the project timeline, that this is a competitive process, what our review process is like, the fact that we pay grant funds on a reimbursement basis, a question I answered in the chat. We also want to give you a heads up. We've already scheduled the training for June 24th. So if you're feeling hopeful, we encourage you to mark that on your calendar. And if you are successful, if your grant is selected, that's when the training will happen, is June the 24th. And a final attestation that everything you've supplied here is true and accurate. One last bit of text here. It's a reminder that we do not accept late applications, nor incomplete applications, nor paper applications. But if you press submit and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot to include X, Y, or Z, no problem. You just go within your application and ask to edit. But this has to happen on or before March 19th because the deadline's March 20th. We want to have time enough to see that request and respond to it. Bottom line is any application that's not submitted by the March 20th deadline, 12 noon, will not be considered. It'll be considered late. But the good news is you can try to submit your application, and any question that's marked required that you have not answered, Submittable will alert you to that, okay? So you'll notice all those red flags that popped up just because I tried to submit an incomplete application. So I wanted to show you that as well. Okay, Dean, I'm going to stop sharing this particular screen. Take us back here just to kind of put a bow on things. So we talked about contacting the partners for your project, NRCS, and your intended project sponsor. We mentioned the deadline of February 20th to complete conservation planning. You have to have those documents in hand by that date. Don't submit them to NMDA just yet. You're going to study those documents to develop your project idea, to get to work on that online application, and to approach your project sponsor before ultimately hitting submit. So Dean, I'm doing just a quick time check with half an hour left to go. I think we probably want to wrap up our PowerPoint slides and then come back to questions and answers. Do you agree with that?
I think that'd be good.
Okay. Not sure why it kicked me back here, but where we left this PowerPoint, you might remember, is this slide right here. And no problem if you weren't able to snag that QR code. Again, we dropped the link in the chat and we'll do so again before we hang up for today. But we wanted to point you to a few tips to help you be successful in your Healthy Soil Program grant application. So this one's pretty straightforward. It's simply to follow steps 1 through 6 in order. We just outlined those for you. And hopefully you see the logic and the intention of making that a sequential process. A reminder here that if you have not already reached out to your project sponsor and to NRCS, again, that's step one, you've got to get on it. Okay. Dean, anything more you want to say about contacting your project sponsor or NRCS?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is it is good to contact your project sponsor, potential project sponsor as soon as possible because depending on the sponsor, they may request a little bit more information from you or to you to actually show up at a board meeting, something of that nature, and that allows you and the project sponsor to get that worked out in a timely manner before the application is due. And then also NRCS, we work with our federal partners quite a bit, but at the same time, we do rely on them to schedule you in for conservation planning. And so again, reach out to NRCS as soon as possible. And in talking about NRCS, we'll move to that next point here. Spend a good deal of time reviewing your NRCS conservation planning documents. Visit with your planner that is working on your plan. Ask lots of questions. And help work with them to help you select the practices and activities that are most relevant for you, and also that you're capable of completing for your project. There may be something that you just don't have the bandwidth to do, and that's okay. But work with NRCS to determine what's most appropriate for your specific situation based on the resource concerns.
Thank you, Dean. And I'm going to repeat this. It's so critical to select the things that you can actually handle. I want to remind you that we will award up to 3 grants per individual applicant, not in one cycle, but over the course of years. You can apply and be awarded up to 3 times. So think about it in that way. Maybe your dream is to accomplish X, Y, Z, then some. Divide that up across multiple projects and implement a phase type approach. So we want to give you a right size project, but you'll need to determine what is right sized for you by talking with NRCS. Figure out what you can handle. You heard me say this exact phrase before, to stay in the driver's seat of your application. The reason we call that out is because we hear from grantees oftentimes that they're seeking input from others. That's great. Contact NRCS. Ask your project sponsor for input. Ask us questions at NMDA. There are many trusted nonprofits that would love to help you with your grant. It's critical that you stay in the driver's seat, that you own the application start to finish, because ultimately you're the party that we will sign the contract with if your grant is selected for funding. So keep that in mind. That's a tip to be successful. Dean went over the timeline and budget template, and we encourage you to spend good time on that document as well, just ensuring that all the requested goods and services are essential to your project. They've got to be soil health related in order for us to consider them for funding. And we encourage you to visit that FAQ, go look at some of the expenses that we have called out as ineligible that will help you understand what's eligible. We encourage you to double check, even triple check your application before you press submit. You saw when I pressed submit, it got kicked back for some of those questions that were required, but I hadn't answered them yet. So that application will help you in that way. It won't help you by rereading your answers for you and telling you what makes sense. So you'll have to do that bit of review on your own. And last but not least, submit your online application, including all the documents early. Give yourself a little breathing room just in case you need to edit later, just in case the internet goes out, just in case you have a great big snow and things are bogged down on your end. So these are just all the tips we want to offer to you in order to be as successful as possible in this competitive application process. And we want to wrap up with a question for an invitation rather for questions. And also just a reminder to visit our website, get signed up for those weekly emails. We, of course, will share some contact information with you in the chat, but I'll let things hover there, Dean, as we start to tick through some of the things that have come in via the chat. So any questions top of mind for you, Dean, that you've observed come in?
So, Katie, there is a question. I'll go ahead and read it and see your thoughts on this. We've actually got a couple different individuals that have asked this. Basically, they would like to hire workers paid by the hour rather than a company? Is this acceptable if we give a realistic estimate for the hours of labor it would cost? Second question was very similar. They would like to hire laborers rather than companies um, due to the cost that companies are charging. So I think there's a couple other questions, but we'll start with those because a couple people have asked those.
Sure. Let's be really clear on what we mean by services. We do not mean general farm and ranch labor. Um, Dean and I both come from a production agriculture background, so we understand that labor is involved anytime you're making improvements on your farm or ranch. That is not fundable under our program. We have another program that may be helpful to you, the Agricultural Workforce Development Program, separate stream of funds. All of that to say, through this program, we do not fund general farm and ranch labor. We're looking for special work that you cannot do yourself. So let's say you want to no-till drill in a cover crop seed, but you don't have a no-till drill. No problem. We can help you pay for the leasing of that no-till drill or pay for the operator to come out and run that no-till drill on your place. But again, if it's general farm and ranch labor, that is simply ineligible for funding under our program. So I wanted to make that clear right off the bat. Just going back through realistic estimate for the hours of labor it would cost. Again, it really depends on the labor. So if it's specialized labor, and we offer examples in our FAQ, then you can request funds for that type of labor, specialized services that are essential to get your project done. You can request funding there. But I would be very clear within your application what sort of labor is intended for your project so that we have a good sense of whether it's eligible or not. Dean, would you like to chew on that second half of the question about companies versus individuals and why it is that why that policy exists within our program? If not, I can keep going. I just hate to drone on and on here.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you take that one. There's a couple more on virtual fencing that I'll tackle here in just a second. If you would want to clarify the companies versus individuals.
Mhm. Well, the company's piece helps us have trackable, auditable records for our program. So, that's something that we can all hang our hats on that this is the labor that happened. This is who provided it. This is what was charged. This is what our individual applicant grantee paid out of pocket that we'll later reimburse them for. So that's our reason for preferring the work of companies, someone with an actual letterhead that's recognized by the Secretary of State's office as being registered to do business in the state of New Mexico.
Hey, Katie, next question's pretty easy. Can you save the application while it is in process, or does it have to be 100% complete upon submission? I think this is kind of a two-part question, but you can work on the application, save it, come back to it, work on it, save it, come back to it, all the way up until the March 20th deadline. And it does have to be completed in order to submit it. And so I think that's kind of a two-part question. I hope I answered it, but you can come back multiple times and work on the application prior to the deadline. Next question is about virtual fencing. Um, and it says, what about a virtual fencing tower that starts well above the $4,999 cap? The options available for that, if you choose to go with a company that does require a tower for the virtual fencing to function completely, yes, that would not be eligible for the program unless the company offers a leasing option. And if it is a lease, that's considered a professional service, and so it would be eligible as a service if you're able to lease that. Now, there's no guarantee that the company you select will lease the equipment for the duration of the grant, and so you'll have to work with that company individually. If you do run into more questions about virtual fencing, please give us an email at HSP email, which we're going to pop in the chat here in just a second, and we can likely help you with that. Second part of that question, would you list the callers individually or as a group, or group them in groups coming in under the cap? The durable goods, and let me kind of explain this just a little bit more. Any durable good that has multiple components that function together collectively, they must be listed collectively on the budget. So for your herd of cattle or your herd of goats, if you're wanting to implement virtual fencing, you would have to include all of the collars necessary for your herd to utilize the virtual fencing. Um, and so that whether that comes in under the cap or above the cap, you'll have to determine, but you'll have to list them collectively as part of the full practice. So I hope that answers that question on the virtual fencing. The next one, I'll actually try to take a stab at this next one. We understand, this is from Rick. We understand that not everybody has maybe full access to a computer or, the technological savvy or the want to sit behind a computer. This is where we do ask you to maybe work with your project sponsor. Many project sponsors are willing to assist you in completing the application or allowing you to utilize their technology on site to complete the application. But we do ask you on that situation, visit with your project sponsor. As Katie mentioned earlier, maybe there's some nonprofits out there that would be willing to assist you with the technology aspect of it. Filling out, helping you provide computer access and things like that. And so, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. As you continue chewing on things, I'm going to read a question from Andrew, excuse me. Do all resources have to be sourced in New Mexico? For example, compost, mulch, manure, biochar, can they be purchased out of state? So, Dean, I'll just offer just a quick answer here and invite you to wrap some context around it. The Healthy Soil Act encourages us to prefer those items that are locally sourced. But if you can't find them locally, it's okay to look outside of the state. A good, for instance, of this is with soil testing. A lot of people have selected labs outside of the state of New Mexico to help them complete their pre-project soil test, which is required of all of our grantees. Dean, there might be more you want to say there.
The only thing I would add is, like Katie said, we do encourage you to to work with in-state contractors, in-state suppliers as much as possible. But we do understand there may be some specific items that you have to source out of state. That's perfectly allowable. There was one question, I think it was way up in the chat about being able to order stuff from Amazon. That's perfectly acceptable as long as you have all of the documentation showing that it was purchased and invoicing and things like that. But we do encourage you to work locally as much as possible. Another question about budget and how to put things together. It says, so is a fence listed and all in the same cell, post, fence, and wire? That way you can see a total for the fence, or do you want separate items, separate cells with more details? Um, the fence will be considered collective, and it would probably benefit you to list it all as in one line item for reimbursement purposes because when you purchase it, um, say the posts go up just a little bit, but the cost of the fence or the wire goes down just a little bit. It's better if they're all in the same line item. We do ask you to describe them, but they will be considered collectively either way. Next question, does the durable good cap include shipping and handling and taxes? Yes. So if you're purchasing a durable good and you wish to include the shipping, handling, taxes, and get reimbursed for that, it would all be considered part of that one durable good.
tried to keep up with some of the chat as you were walking through our timeline and budget template, Dean. If there's a question we missed earlier in the chat, feel free to refresh it in the chat for us so we can make sure we get it addressed before we part company here in about 10 minutes. And again, maybe you've got a question where you say, I don't know how to phrase this thing. No problem. Just unmute and we can discuss your question out loud.
So there's a question that came in. Could a soil lab for Aracekia to quantify carbon capture qualify? Um, yes, it could qualify. However, the technical review committee does look at the feasibility of services requested, and if if that is not directly related to mitigating an identified resource concern, it may be removed from your budget. And so I would ask you if, on that specific question, maybe reach out to us at the HSP email account. And we might need a little more context on that. But as a general rule, we do ask the review committee to look at the feasibility of services requested. And there are times where, there's been a cost that's just completely out of sight. And we do revise those accordingly if they do not fit locally from what's normally occurring. I did get a question as a direct message. Is there a list of seed suppliers and seed drilling companies? NMDA does not maintain a list of seed suppliers and or seed drilling companies. However, I am going to ask Katie. There is the one of our nonprofit partners, the New Mexico Healthy Soil Working Group, does maintain a list of equipment rentals as well as contractors, I believe, that are available for that. Katie, I think you have a little bit more information on that than I do because I'm kind of grasping at that one right now.
No worries. Let me fish that out. And if Isabel or anyone else from the New Mexico Healthy Soil Working Group is on, feel free to beat us to the punch to provide that equipment directory. They've done a lot of good work to collect that information. So one quick Google and I'll be back with that information.
And I saw a question pop up about if you have an LLC, can you do the work yourself? And the answer to that is no. We don't allow you to do the work on your own farm. And so if it's a specialized service that you have to contract out, that's acceptable. But you as the operator, that's kind of your skin in the game. If you are doing work on your own land, we cannot reimburse you for that.
Dean, I'm taking just a moment to get some critical information copied over to the chat. Okay. So just a couple of web pages to bookmark is what I dropped in the chat just now. The Healthy Soil Program homepage is where you can sign up for a brief weekly email from us. And that second page is specific to you as individual applicants. This is where you'll find all the materials that we walked through today. And I wrap that up with our email address. Again, if you've got questions, you find that they're not addressed or addressed sufficiently in our frequently asked questions document, no problem. Just zip us a quick email and we'll get back to you in writing so you have an answer that you can feel assured about. I still owe you the link to that equipment directory from the Healthy Soil Working Group. And here is that. So again, if you're looking to rent equipment, to lease equipment, this is a good place to begin the search for who might be able to loan you that.
I saw a question come in about boundary fencing or perimeter fencing. The Healthy Soil Program does in our FAQ, I believe it's listed, but we do not pay for perimeter fencing. We will pay for interior fencing that actually helps promote grazing distribution beyond what's currently available. But boundary fencing is kind of out of the scope of the Healthy Soil Program.
And I will say, oftentimes your local soil and water conservation district is a good place to ask that question. It's possible that they have a cost share program for boundary fences, and if they don't, they might be able to point you to another funding source. Colt asks a good question here. On bale grazing with the cap, you would stop at $4,999.99 a load of hay. And I will say very quickly, no, because that $4,999.99 cap applies only to durable goods. Those are things that you can knock on that are tangible, that are long-lived. So hay, for instance, consumable. It's going to get used up during the course of this grant. We look at that as a non-durable good, and our non-durable goods are not capped at that just beneath $5,000 cap. Okay. Dean, I see we have about 5 minutes left to wrap up. So one final call for those questions that are just too tricky for the chat. Maybe you would prefer to ask it out loud. Go ahead, please. And as we wait for those questions to come in, we'll just keep eyes on the chat here. So Allison
Katie,
asks,
oh,
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead, Katie.
Well, I'm actually going to pitch this question to you. So to clarify, do we need two partners, the SWCD and NRCS?
And that is correct. The SWCD will be your partner throughout the grant. NRCS will be your partner kind of leading up to the grant. They're going to provide that conservation plan that's going to help you put together your grant application, and then the SWCD will then or your tribal government will then carry you on through the grant, providing fiscal assistance for your grant administration. The one thing I will kind of tag onto that is I would encourage all applicants, if you do receive a grant, continue to reach out to NRCS and let them know your progress. Let them know your successes and failures, and because that definitely helps them as they move forward with their continued planning on soil health related issues across the state. And so we do encourage you to continue to work with NRCS. It's not obligated, but we do encourage you to continue working with NRCS just so that they're aware of how your project went.
And Michael, I see you asking for the QR code. What I'll do instead is copy those links that I provided earlier. That's what our codes delivered you to, was those couple of links we looked at. So I'll drop those back in the chat. And I see we have an important question from Dan Conklin that I'm trying to find in the chat. So forgive me for taking just a moment. And Dan, let me just invite you to come off mute and share your question out loud, please, if you're still on the call. I think I found it. Durable goods cap is per item or integrated system, but not an aggregate cap for the grant. Correct. So you saw that column where you're to document all your durable goods purchases. Each of those items is capped at just beneath 5,000 bucks, unless you have multiple items that have to tie together in order to be functional. So Dean probably offered the fencing example earlier. If you've got 5,000 bucks worth of posts, 5,000 bucks worth of wire, 5,000 bucks of maybe clips to keep the wire on the posts, we consider those costs collectively, and we'll say that's $15,000. That's well above the $4,999.99 cap. Again, lots of information in our FAQs detailing some of our ineligible expenses. Really encourage you to check that document out. A
There was a
question I got
question earlier
part.
about
Go ahead.
biosolids. Um, if between working with your conservation planner, if there's a recommendation for biosolids and they are safe to use, they've been tested and they're safe to use. There's no restrictions currently on the use of biosolids. It would be considered an organic amendment and therefore be limited in the total amount that you could apply based on that project development guidance document. We encourage you to read that. And so it would be limited in the amount you can apply based on organic amendments.
Dean, I'm going to call out this question from Andrew. Great question. Are there any loan programs that you work with to make funding accessible for than reimbursement? So in other words, we've shared with you today that we reimburse you as you pay for approved goods and services within your budget at the dollars that you have scripted within that budget. Maybe you need a little startup funding. No problem. We don't have that funding at NMDA, but the New Mexico Healthy Soil Working Group has secured that sort of funding. They call those bridge loans. So what I'm going to provide to you in the chat, Andrew, and others are certainly welcome to access it, is just a bit of information about that. Again, totally apart from NMDA, but we want to make you aware of that resource. Teen, any closing comments as we nudge closer to 5 o'clock?
The only thing I'd close with is I do encourage everyone to take down the HSP email. I'm certain there's some questions we might have missed, and shoot those questions to us. But one, I want to thank you for your attendance this afternoon. Thank you for the time that you took to go over this program with us. Thank you for your interest in soil health across New Mexico, and we'll be glad to definitely help you with your project. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. And again, I just want to thank you for your time and attendance this afternoon.
That is great. Great way to wrap up here, Dean. I don't have much more to add other than that I will put this link in the chat for the New Mexico Healthy Soil Working Group. Is there a good resource on the bridge loans piece that we addressed earlier? And happy to help with other aspects of your project. So there's that information in the chat. Okay. Appreciate you all joining us this afternoon. Again, really take a moment to review all the materials posted for you on the Healthy Soil Program website, especially that individual applicant webpage, and use your time wisely. We're coming to you almost 2 months before the deadline. So be following those steps of the 6-step process. Get in touch with your partners right away if you've not already done so. And as you go through the process of making application to us, reach out with your questions. That's what Dean and I are here for, is to help you through the process. So thank you again for your time, and we look forward to receiving your application soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.